Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf. It's almost September, new month, and that means new books, new releases. So, like every other month, I look at the upcoming releases in the next month, September, in this case, and then I pick a couple, four, five, six, that I personally find interesting and I share them with you. So for the purpose of this video, if you're following this channel and this series, you know TBR means to be released, and then of course also to be read. September was a difficult month for me, not because I couldn't find any books, quite the contrary. September is one of the biggest publishing months in the publishing industry, so the difficulty was to limit my choices to only, five or six, because I could have easily picked 20. But anyway, I've tried to limit it as always, so here are the ones that I find particularly interesting. And as always, we start with fiction. And a lot of times in these video series, I say we start with literary fiction, but I recently made a video, the literary fiction book tag. I will leave a link to this video down below, in which one of the questions was define literary fiction, and I can't. I don't know. I think this term is obsolete, not really. I don't know what people mean exactly when they talk about literary fiction. And then I thought, well, I shouldn't use it if I can't define it. So from now on, I will start this video with general fiction. That's the term I can come up with. And my pick for general fiction for the month of September is Edna O'Brien's new book, Girl, which will be published on the 5th of September. Edna O'Brien is an Irish writer born in 1930, and she is one of my favorite still living writers. I read her last book, The Little Red Chairs, about the aftermath of the war in former Yugoslavia, and I thought it was brilliant. The new one, Girl, is also about the topic of war. It's about a girl being abducted by the Boko Haram in northeastern Nigeria. It tells the story of this abduction, the horrors of her life as being captured by the Boko Haram. Excuse me, her eventual escape, and then the aftermath, how to deal with what she experienced. That's not an easy topic, so to say I'm really, really looking forward to reading this might give the wrong impression. I mean, I love Edna O'Brien's work, and I'm interested what she will do with this fictionalized account of things that actually happen. So in that sense, I'm really looking forward to it. And I will be reading this book in October as a buddy read with a relatively new booktuber, Sharon, from her channel name is Sharon Go Forth. And I will leave a link to her channel down below, because if you don't know her, please check her out and subscribe. We then move on to historical fiction, and for this category I picked Petina Gappah's new book, Out of Darkness, Shining Light, which will be published on the 10th of September. Petina Gappah is a Zimbabwean writer and lawyer, so I feel some sort of kinship with her because, as you know, I'm a lawyer by trade myself. And she now lives in Geneva and still does legal work for international organizations. And of course, she's also a writer. A couple of years back, I read The Book of Memory by her, a novel, and I didn't love it. I didn't think it was absolutely brilliant, but I liked it enough to be interested in Petina Gappah's work. And when I saw that she had a new book out, it made the September TBR. As I said, it's historical fiction set in the 19th century in Africa, and it tells us the story about David Livingstone after his death. So it's not his story, but after his death, and the journey that it's about a group of people I should try to make a whole sentence, a group of people trying to get his body and the work he accumulated, his writings, across the continent back to England. The story is told from the perspective of Halima, the former cook of Livingstone, and Jacob, a freed slave who was also part of the expedition. So it touches upon colonization, of course, slavery, and the quote-unquote exploration of the African continent by the white man. I think that's a fascinating and important topic, so I'm really looking forward to Out of Darkness, Shining Light. Next, we move on to nonfiction, and for this one I picked Patti Smith, Year of the Monkey, which will be published on the 24th of September. I'm a big fan of Patti Smith. I love her work, her music, and I've read the previous, this one is a memoir, by the way, I should have said that right from the start, and I read her previous two memoirs, Just Kids, about her youth, and M-Train, and I really liked both books. This one, Year of the Monkey, is about her year of solitary traveling in 2016 after a concert, New Year's Eve in San Francisco. And she wrote snippets of the books in cafes and train stations during her travels. It's quite a short one, under 200 pages. But because I love her work, I'm of course interested in what she has to say during this Year of the Monkey. Next up is crime fiction, and you know me, I really love a good crime novel. And my pick for September, I had a little bit of a trepidation slash doubt, because it's Renee Denfield's The Butterfly Girl, the second one in a series which started with The Child Finder, a book that I didn't love really that much, but I did love her previous book, Renee Denfield's previous book, The Enchanted. I thought it was brilliant, so I'm willing to give this new series another try. The book will be published on the 15th of September, and it's again about Naomi, an investigator like Renee Denfield, by the way. She's an American author, but she worked for many, many years as the chief investigator for the Public Defender's Office. So she has knowledge about investigative work. And Naomi Cottle, the main investigator in this series, is a child finder. So she is an investigator of missing children. And this one, as I understood, is mainly focusing on Naomi's own missing sister, who has been missing for decades. So, like I said, I didn't find the Child Finder, the first in the series, that good, but because I loved The Enchanted, I'm willing to give Renee Denfield series another try. And as always, we end this video with sci-fi. And I have two sci-fi releases in September that I'm looking forward to. And the first one probably doesn't surprise you at all, because of course it's Margaret Atwood's The Testaments, which will be published on the 10th of September. It's the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, which has been published more than 30 years ago and has, experienced a revival, certainly after the TV series The Handmaid's Tale, which is now I think in the third season or something. So Margaret Atwood decided to write her own sequel. The only thing we know, because the book is not available, at least not for, us mortals, before publication date, but it's set 15 years after The Handmaid's Tale ends, with Offred going off to an unknown future. And it will be told by three female voices. That's what I read. And we will learn about, what happened to Gilead and what happened to Offred. Now, I have to say, yes, I'm just jumping onto the bandwagon. I don't know what to expect from this book. but I have to read it. And I'm sure if you look at on the Goodreads page of this book, how many people have clicked it as to read. I'm just too curious not to read it. I'm afraid that this book, giving the expectations that you have, and this TV series about The Handmaid's Tale, which tells the story way after expanding the story of the original book. I'm afraid that it can only disappoint, but maybe I will be pleasantly surprised. But no matter what, I want to read it. The sequel in The Handmaid's Tale, The Testaments, I will certainly, rush to the bookstore on the 10th of September to get myself a copy. And then the second sci-fi book and the last book for this video is Annalee Newitz, The Future of Another Timeline, which will be published end of September on the 24th. Annalee Newitz is an American journalist who mainly writes about science and technology. And I read a previous sci-fi novel by her, Autonomous, and I liked it enough to look out for anything that Newitz will put out there. Now, her new book is set in two timelines, 1992, with the main character of Beth, and in 2022 with the character of Tess. It's about Tess going back in time, trying to prevent certain events in order to change the world for the better, whereas Beth in 1992 finds herself in the situation that she has to cover up the murder of an abusive boyfriend of a friend of hers. And then these two timelines intertwine. There's obviously a war going on. I'm interested in sci-fi, you know that, I love sci-fi, but time travel books always intrigue me because most of the time they don't quite work. It's difficult to really make it cohesive when people go back in time, not meeting their own previous past self and stuff like that, and how does it affect the future timeline. So because Newitz is also a journalist and she writes about science and technology, I really have high hopes for this one. So I'm looking forward to the future of another timeline at the end of the month. So these were the 6 books that will be published in September that I picked out of the many that will come out in September. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments. Maybe you have new releases in September that you're particularly looking forward to that I haven't mentioned. And I'm also interested, of course, whether you are interested in any of the books that I mentioned in this video. And I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye-bye.